When something happens, the mind immediately creates meaning. This process is automatic and fast. A simple event becomes a conclusion about your situation, your future, or your capability. The fact is neutral, but the interpretation is not. A delayed response becomes rejection. A mistake becomes failure. A challenge becomes a threat. This is where most of the emotional weight is created. Not in the event itself, but in the meaning attached to it. When fact and story merge, clarity disappears. You are no longer responding to reality, you are reacting to interpretation. This is why small situations begin to feel overwhelming. They are carrying more meaning than they actually contain. So the skill is separation. Identify what actually happened, without explanation. No assumptions, no conclusions, no emotional language. Then identify what the mind is adding. The predictions, the generalizations, the personal judgments. This creates distance. That distance reduces intensity. And when intensity is reduced, thinking becomes more precise. Most stress is not caused by reality. It is caused by the narrative layered on top of it. When you remove that layer, the problem becomes smaller, more specific, and more manageable. This does not eliminate the problem. It allows you to see it clearly. And clarity is what allows effective action. Without this separation, you are always reacting to something larger than what actually exists. Most people attempt to think clearly while emotionally activated. That does not work. When the nervous system is elevated, the brain prioritizes speed over accuracy. It moves into reaction mode. Attention narrows, perspective collapses, and decision-making becomes rushed. In that state, even good solutions feel unreachable. This is why people make poor decisions under pressure, not because they lack intelligence, but because their state is unstable. So the sequence must change. Do not solve first. Stabilize first. Slow the breath, reduce physical tension, and allow the body to settle. This is not about relaxation. It is about restoring cognitive access. When the body calms, the mind follows. And when the mind stabilizes, it regains the ability to process accurately. This is where clarity returns. Not suddenly, but gradually, as the noise decreases. Most people resist this step because they believe they need to act immediately. But urgency is often created by emotion, not by reality. When you slow down your response, you gain leverage. You begin to see options that were previously hidden. You begin to prioritize effectively. You begin to act with intention instead of reaction. This is not delaying action. It is preparing for correct action. Without regulation, effort is wasted. With regulation, effort becomes effective. Overwhelm is created when the mind tries to resolve everything at once. It expands the problem beyond what can be acted on. It asks questions that have no immediate answer and expects clarity before movement. This creates paralysis. So the shift is simple but critical. Reduce the scale. Do not ask how to solve everything. Ask what action reduces this situation slightly. Not completely. Slightly. This question changes everything. It brings the problem back to a level that can be engaged with. Once an action is taken, even a small one, the situation changes. That change produces feedback. Feedback creates direction. Direction creates clarity. This is how progress actually works. Not through complete understanding, but through continuous interaction with reality. Each step informs the next. Each adjustment improves accuracy. Waiting for full clarity before acting prevents this process entirely. Movement creates clarity. Stillness preserves confusion. This is why small actions matter. Not because they are impressive, but because they are effective. They create momentum. And momentum changes how problems are experienced. They no longer feel static. They become dynamic. Something you can work with instead of something you are stuck inside. At a certain point, this process becomes identity. You stop seeing problems as threats and start seeing them as information. You no longer collapse when they appear. You stabilize, observe, and respond. Not perfectly, but consistently. This consistency builds trust. Not confidence based on outcomes, but confidence based on response. You begin to rely on your ability to handle situations step by step. Over time, problems lose their emotional intensity. Not because they disappear, but because your relationship with them changes. You are no longer reacting automatically. You are directing your response. That is the shift. Not a life without problems, but a mind that can meet them without losing clarity. This is what separates reactive thinking from deliberate thinking. It is not about eliminating difficulty. It is about becoming stable within it. And that stability is built through repetition. Each time you interrupt a loop, separate fact from story, regulate your state, and take a small action, you reinforce a different identity. An identity that does not avoid, does not collapse, and does not wait. It engages. It responds. It moves forward. Most people will hear this, understand it, and return to their usual patterns. Not because they are incapable, but because they do not apply what they learn in real time. This only works through practice. One situation at a time. One response at a time. You do not need to change everything. You need to apply one skill when it matters. That is how change becomes permanent. If you are serious about developing that level of control, about thinking clearly under pressure, and about building a mind that does not collapse when problems appear, then you are in the right place. This is Unchartered Decision. A place where thinking is trained, not assumed. Where clarity is practiced, not hoped for. And where you learn how to respond deliberately, even when situations are not ideal. Stay consistent with the process. The results follow.